Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is January the 3rd, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Friday to ya. Hopefully this episode finds you in that good Friday spirit, that energy, that way, if you will. And if it's, you're not listening to this on a Friday, that's okay. That's fine. Hopefully, you still get that vibe, that energy. Today was good. Today was a W. We're back. We're back on. Work was slow. Slow enough that I actually got to sit back and maintenance again. So, we're definitely back. We're chilling. We're chill maxing. So that was a vibe. That was good. Let's see. The gym was good to me. I had a really good workout. No one got in my way, so that was nice. And I dare say, it wasn't as packed. There wasn't as much working out over another person, so that was good. That was a vibe. I would say maybe the one potential negative or, a little sticking point was it's the fear of the snow, the incoming snow. Apparently, I think Sunday night, Monday, we're supposed to have a big snow situation here. So, everyone's kind of talking about it, oh, you're going to call off, you're going to call off for Monday, blah, blah, blah. My ass, if it's looking like it's going to snow, then probably. But I would say what really is kind of getting me on my haunches a bit is that it's gotten to the point where I've gotten a text from my job, a little emergency service line saying, hey, we're going to keep you updated. And more importantly, excuse me, I got a text from Spectrum saying hey, we're going to try to do our best to secure for this upcoming storm. But if you get any outages, hit up your utilities. I'm like, damn, man, I don't want to be snowed in with no power. So I'm really hoping that this is not as bad as, people are forecasting. We shall see. I will keep you posted. But yeah, Snowmageddon is coming. I don't know what snow sound makes. Anyway, so yeah, that was my day. That it was overall, it was good. It was a vibe. Ooh, another good thing. Little book talk, little book corner. Finished my first book of the year, though I will say we did start it last year. But we finished 1984. My final thoughts, obviously no spoilers or anything, even though it's an old ass book. It was fine. It was better than I was initially giving it credit in my first synopsis when I first talked about this, but I still feel like the beginning was really not fun. I wasn't enjoying the main character, Winston or whatever. I didn't vibe with him. I didn't feel like I wanted to know more about him, but here we are being dragged along in this world, in this time, whatever. But then the middle part, because it was broken up in 3 acts. The second part was actually oh, I like this. I enjoyed it. I felt damn, I wish we could just stay in this phase of the book for I don't know, forever. I wonder how it's going to go. Then you get to the third part, and the third part was better than the beginning, but still not enough to make me feel oh, yeah, this was worth my time fully. I love this book now. No, I just felt oh, the middle of this really got me, it really got me. I really hooked. And then now we're at the end of this and I'm oh boy, I'm not gonna like this. So yeah, that's my quick little synopsis of 1984. As much as I'm maybe talking a little shit on Orwell and maybe my lack of love for him, I did start Animal Farm, so I'll keep you posted on that. The book's not even as big as 1984, so once I get my little audio book stuff up on Spotify again, because I maxed out reading this and a couple other things, I'll give a synopsis on Animal Farm. But I will say already, reading that, I think I like this one more, but annoyingly enough, it just feels like a simpler version of 1984. I feel like we're going to go around and do the same fucking conversation, just with animals. So I'm okay, apparently this is George's stick. I will say, I kind of was thinking about this, because Hemingway. I do like Hemingway. Hemingway is a writer I do actually enjoy, but I really enjoy Hemingway because of how he talks about alcohol. And Orwell kind of had that, but like the way he describes the alcohol, it's never fun. Like it's always like miserable and drab and dreary, like the worst thing you could drink. Like, and it's like, look, dude, I don't like gin either, but like I wouldn't write, I wouldn't write about it like that. But like, whereas like Hemingway will be very like, it just makes it a part of the story. Like, you know what I mean? And that's something that I can appreciate there when it comes to, a little bit of, literature there, is how alcohol is included into the book. I don't know. I just like that. It's a vibe for me. But yeah, there you go. It's a little book talk, a little book corner for ya. But yeah, let's go ahead and we will go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. I am thinking though. I'm trying to plot, and I guess I got to see what the Spotify library is or whatever. But I think I would like, knock on wood, I would like to read another Kurt Vonnegut book. Slaughterhouse Five is one of my favorite books, but it's the only Kurt Vonnegut book I've read, and I would like to read that. Like I don't know, just something else like that because I miss that. I miss that kind of writing. I've been reading a lot of people that I was like, okay, yeah, I finally get into this guy, get into that guy, but yeah, they don't hit like the Kang. At least he's one of my faves. I don't know. Anyway, let me go ahead and do this startup. Oh yeah. Also, if you guys ever want to suggest me a book to read, if I can get it either on Audible or once again on Spotify or there's some cool, easy, free way to get it, let me know because I would like to read it. Okay, we're back. Our first story comes from Reuters. South Korean presidential guards prevent arrest of impeached Yoon after tense standoff. South Korea's presidential guards and military troops prevented authorities from arresting impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol on Friday in a tense 6-hour standoff inside Yoon's compound in the heart of Seoul. Yoon is under criminal investigation for insurrection over his December 3rd martial law bid that stunned South Korea and led to the first arrest warrant to be issued for his sitting president. It was judged that it was virtually impossible to execute the arrest warrant due to the ongoing standoff. The Corruption Investigation Office, or the CIO, said in a statement. CIO officials and police evaded hundreds of Yoon supporters who gathered in pre-dawn hours near his residency on Friday, who adopted the Stop the Steal slogans popularized by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump supporters to block the arrest. Officials from the CIO, which is leading a joint team of investigators, arrived at the gates of the presidential compound shortly after 7 a.m. and entered on foot. Once inside the compound, the CIO and police were outnumbered by cordons of Presidential Security Service, or PSS, which every time I'm seeing this, I just think piss. PSS personnel, as well as troops seconded to presidential security, a CIO official told reporters. More than 200 PSS agents and soldiers blocked the CIO officers and police, he added. While there were altercations and PSS agents appeared to be carrying firearms, no weapons were drawn. But essentially, they just blocked him off, and they weren't able to actually arrest Yoon, who has refused summons to come to court to deal with this shit. He's just like, nope, I'm just not. Like, I'm just not going to address this, which is crazy. But yeah, the CIO called off the effort to arrest Yoon around 1:30 due to concerns over the safety of its personnel and said it deeply regretted Yoon's noncompliance. The CIO said it would take or consider its next steps. The police, who are a part of the joint investigation team, have designated the PSS chief and the deputy as suspects in a criminal case of obstruction of official duty and issued summons for them to appear for questioning on Saturday, Yonhap News reported. So, like, this is a play, and they're also asking the current president to, which I believe is Choi, to intercede and like push this, like impose it. But he's been kind of mum. So, maybe he's kind of at the limit of playing ball now, since it's like this is the People's Power Party person, even though he's like the third guy potentially on the block. But let's see here. The current warrant gives investigators only 48 hours to hold Yoon after he's arrested. Investigators must then decide whether to request a detention warrant or release him. Let's see here. Oh, this is an important part to mention. I guess the other half of the story, the other side, I should say. The statement warned, or in a statement after the arrest effort was suspended, Yoon's legal team said the CIO had no authority to investigate insurrection, and it was regrettable that it had tried to execute an illegal warrant in a sensitive security area. The statement warned police against supporting the arrest effort. The presidential office filed a criminal complaint against 3 broadcasters and YouTube channel owners for unauthorized filming of the presidential residence, which it said was a secured facility directly linked to national security. Now, before I get too far ahead, the thing that we kind of skimmed past in the top, which is part of the thumbnail, it is crazy to me how, like, anyone who is, like, on the conservative, especially on, like, the harder right of things, like, pretty much if you're a populist or what have you, you latch on to this, like, Donald Trump-like bravado. It's so weird how you just see this shit happen, like, kind of time and time again, down to the point here where they're literally just taking the slogans, they're just like, yeah, stop the steal. It's like, bro, this dude tried to do martial law on all of you guys. And, like, you guys are such, like, Yoon stands that you're really, like, willing to come out and, like, run to literal physical defense for him? Like, he was trying to shut down your country. He's fucked all this shit up for y'all. And you're like, let's just let it go. You guys are being crazy. So, yeah, I mean, it's wild times in South Korea. What else did I really wanted to pull here? Choi Sang-mok, who is acting president. I never get his name right, but there's just so many fucking names I have to go through every day. It's hard for any of them to stick. What can I say? Honestly, and that's a problem I have with people in general. If I meet you, it takes me 3 times at least to get your name right, and that's if I'm, like, sober. Anyway, let's see here. We'll see how things escalate or how they go from here. I'm curious if law enforcement's plan to kind of say, hey, take a couple of these guys who are, like, leading this detail of the PSS, if that gives them the leverage that they need to kind of come back and try again and say, hey, like, you guys aren't going to keep making a fuss and fight about this, right? Or if Choi Sang-mok actually comes through and says, hey, you guys got to let this go. Like, he has to go and face these crimes. Like, what are we doing here? Like, democracy has to run its course here. What you're doing is not that. But, okay, you and your Praetorian Guard or whatever can just chill. That was another thing. This feels so, like, Roman times to me. It feels so weird because we were talking about a quote-unquote, a modern liberal democracy or whatever the fuck. And it's just like, what are we saying here? Meanwhile, you have, like, North Korea literally, like, giggling, laughing, kicking their feet at this shit because it's like, you guys try to put this on us. At least especially from Yoon's perspective, because he literally tried to say, hey, my opposition has actually been infiltrated by North Koreans. It's this bad. Like, because they're literally trying to impeach all my people. They're trying to impeach me. And, like, he just proceeds to throw this fucking literal tantrum. And it's like, dude, like, you've been terrible since you got into power and, like, tried to undo every kind of fucking agreement that we've come to. You've just tried to completely railroad. You've been the fucking problem. Meanwhile, that's not covered that way because it's our ally, it's our dude, and, like, at the end of the day, Western coverage is always going to try to villainize fucking North Korea. They just are always going to do that, fucking flat out, period, whether they deserve it or they don't. So it's just one of those things where it's very, very funny. Where you do get to kind of see North Koreans get the last laugh here and just, like, kind of post and laugh like, you guys are fucking lame. Get this shit together. You guys are fucking crazy losers. Actually, I'll just go ahead and read this last part before we move on. North Korean state media published a detailed report on the political turmoil in the South, including the arrest warrant issued against Yoon, who it said suddenly refuses to be investigated, totally denying his crimes with sheer lies. North Korea has been harshly critical of Yoon, citing his hardline policy against Pyongyang as grounds in declaring the South a primary foe and announcing it had abandoned unification as a national goal. But yeah, let's move on from one tyrant to another. But technically, we should say a guy under the tyrant, in the totem pole and the pecking order. We got to go to the House of Representatives. We got some Mike Johnson news coming down the pipe. From Reuters. Trump's Republicans reelect Mike Johnson, U.S. House Speaker, despite dissent. So yeah, I felt like before today, I knew how things were gonna go. Then things broke in a way that I didn't expect, and I was like, oh shit, maybe I got this wrong. And then like, no, it totally did work out. At least it works out for quote unquote our guy Mike. Y'all know how I feel about good old fucking Christian Mike Johnson. U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson was reelected to the chamber's top job on Friday by a razor-thin margin that highlighted potential fissures among presidential-elect Donald Trump's Republicans on Capitol Hill. Honestly, I know this sounds really cringe to say. I'm so ready for this guy to become president, so I don't have to keep saying president-elect. It's so fucking annoying. Johnson appeared to, and also I should never have to say Joe Biden again, right? So like, I guess those are pluses or whatever. Johnson appeared to initially fall short of the majority he needed to retain his job in a roll call vote that lasted nearly 2 hours. But two Republican opponents switched their votes to support him after lengthy negotiations, with at least one reporting receiving a call from Trump himself. Johnson was won re-election with 218 votes, the minimum number needed. Republicans control the chamber by a razor-thin 219 to 215 majority. And, of course, the Democrats are like, no, we're not fucking backing you. We don't fuck with you, especially after that whole debacle before. So it's like, yeah, we're going to, put Hakeem on. We were always going to do that, period. And essentially they couldn't have like anyone but like one person drop. And essentially they had, I think, 2 or 3 plus like 6 people who were just trying not to vote. So they had to actually do some wrangling after the shit kind of went left. Following the vote, Johnson vowed to extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which are due to expire this year, and roll back regulations. We're going to drastically cut back the size and scope of the government, he said. Other big challenges will loom, including addressing the nation's more than $36 trillion in debt, which Congress will need to act on later this year. Now I want to kind of talk to some of the guys who are trying to gum up the works here. They do talk about Kevin McCarthy and all that shit. I've heard that mentioned a couple times today, which it has to remind me that shit was 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, when did that happen? Like last year? Like, no, it's 2. Technically 2 now. Like, god damn it. Let's see here. Representative Keith Self, one of 3 Republicans to initially vote against Johnson, said he had a lively discussion with Trump after doing so. He said he secured a promise that members from the party's right wing would be included in efforts to shape high-profile tax and immigration bills. We needed more input from members like myself, not a chairman, not a leadership position, and I think that's what we have done, he told reporters. So here's definitely one place I want to stop, because you see, okay, these are some of the angles that we're probably going to see more of throughout the year, throughout this term or whatever with like Trump. Because you hear a lot of people try to buck like the boat and essentially say, hey, this isn't actually like pro-Trump. What's going on here? This guy isn't pro-Trump, or this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. Or they say they're against something. But meanwhile, up top, you literally hear Trump saying, no, I want blah. I want blah to happen. And like in this situation, he wanted Johnson. He said, that's the guy. I'm fine with that. He has like the least friction. That's the guy I fucking want. So essentially anyone coming up and saying like, nah, this dude's like actually against Trump agendas and da 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 da. You sound funny. You just sound funny. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, then what is the angle, right? Like, do you really, is this like the kind of like the McCarthy thing where you have a vendetta against this guy? Or you see here, you probably have something to gain, or people who are in maybe your little coalition of people that you have for your little votes in this Republican part of the spectrum here. So you want to make sure that you get more heads, or maybe even yourself if you're one of these 3 guys, into a conversation, right? You know, you're making moves, you're making motion happen. So you see that angle of self-interest out of a guy like himself. So it's like, okay, all right, I dig that, I guess. At least we see how the thing's gonna get played out from here. There was also like a picture of was it Marjorie Taylor Greene on the phone with like Trump's like chief of staff having a conversation, being all oh, la, 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 la. But like she was a stinker, I imagine, in the mix, or someone who was probably trying to gum up the works. And it's like, yeah, these are people who have to be kind of like smoothed over. You have to kind of talk, you have to kind of work them over a bit. You know, in order to kind of get what you want. Essentially, they want their bit of spotlight time. They want a potential, like, hey, what do I get from me kind of thing. And then they'll totally go along with essentially what this whole block of motherfuckers want. But you have to do it wholly because the numbers are still super fucking tight. So tight. Here we go. Here, one more thing I wanted to mention. This guy though I do like, because this guy is another guy I want to stop at, which I think this is one of those peak haters. You know what I mean? Kind of like a Gates, where it's just like, no, I don't actually fuck with this dude. Fuck Johnson. Like, and I obviously I like the energy because I'm like fuck Johnson too, brother. Even though I probably would not fuck with Thomas Massie. He sounds like a piece of shit. Representative Thomas Massie, a vocal opponent of Johnson, who has long been a thorn in the side of his party's leadership, was the lone Republican to vote against him. Another 6 Republicans had initially declined to vote at all before casting ballots for Johnson. So you just see this weird thing where it's like, we shouldn't have to have any of the static. He shouldn't have even missed once in terms of this roll call situation, but he did. And I think that goes to show that when rubber is going to meet the road, you're going to see people trying to make moves for themselves or to try to like hammer home their little issues for whatever reasons. Like, they're going to make moves. But at the end of the day, this is all going to kind of probably move. Like, I feel like how we watched in, 2023, 2024, with like the Tories in the UK, where it's like, okay, like sure there's drama here, but you guys are all a block of fucking shitty evil people, and you're gonna get the things that you want passed. And you know, we're just gonna watch that happen, but you guys are gonna try to find ways to make fanfare out of it all, right? I also foresee for Johnson, he's going to have to work with Democrats and potentially make an ass of himself to his Republican counterparts who are trying to say, hey, we don't actually want this, and there's enough of us to be sticks in the mud to stop you. And he's going to be like, well, I bet I can maybe win over these guys. But then again, if you keep burning these bridges with these guys, with the Democrats, are you really going to be able to do that? You know, so we'll see. I guess that's going to be quote unquote the interesting part. Obviously in the Senate, John Thune is now the House Majority Leader there. So there's that, whatever. But yeah, we'll go ahead and move on out. You know, Johnson has solidified his position now. He's got his next term. Yay for that. Tomatoes for that, actually. Anyway, let's move on. The first half of this, we can say Act 1 was politics. Act 2, it's planes. From CBS News. Plane crash near Fullerton Airport leaves 2 dead and 19 people injured. 2 people died and 19 others suffered injuries following a small plane crash in Orange County Thursday afternoon. A single-engine van's RV-10 crashed around 2:15 p.m. PST, according to the Federal Aviation Administration. It happened in the 2300 block of Raymer Avenue near Fullerton Airport. The National Transportation Safety Board described the RV-10 as a kit-built plane, essentially an aircraft an owner can assemble and maintain. So pause. I didn't know that these things were a thing. That automatically made me feel very uneasy just hearing that, like, wait, you can just build your own aircraft? But there are more details that I gotta get through. Once construction is complete, the FAA inspects the aircraft and clears it for flight. So at the end of the day, it is inspected like I imagine any other kind of plane would be. Roughly 11,000 various models of vans, airplanes, are currently flying, according to the NTSB. Around 10%, or around 1,100 of those planes, are the specific model involved in the crash. Now, we don't know, the details as of yet, but kind of just, I guess, do the rundown. Based on the initial investigation conducted by the FAA and the NTSB, authorities said the pilot took off from Fullerton Airport at about 2 p.m. and immediately climbed to 900 feet. A short time later, the pilot called for an immediate return to the airport. After receiving clearance to land on any runway, the airplane turned left towards one of the runways but crashed about 1,000 feet short of the airport. Simpson said the plane crashed into a furniture building and immediately caught fire. The Fullerton Police Department said the 2 passengers in the plane died. On Friday, friends of the victims identified them as the Huntington Beach man Pascal Reed and his 16-year-old daughter Kelly. She was remembered by her soccer team as genuine and kind with such passion for life. That was an Instagram post. But yeah, it looks like it just like hit the furniture building and crashed like into it, and that's where like I believe the 19 injuries kind of come from. But yeah, like you can literally see in the like in the article they have a picture of it, and like you can just kind of see into the darkness and you can just see the plane or at least part of it. And yeah, it looks pretty bad. Like this looks like a Fallout building type of situation. So yeah, the Fullerton Fire Department said 19 people sustained injuries in addition to the 2 deaths. Police said the injuries varied, with paramedics hospitalizing 11 people while crews treated and released 8 people at the scene. So yeah, pretty sad. Obviously, condolences to the family, the people involved and all that. Definitely a sad situation. And it's like, man, we got a cluster of these. And speaking of clusters, this is the second known plane crash at the airport within the last 2 months. On November 25th, another small plane crashed into a tree on the 2400 block of Artesia Avenue, roughly a block away from the most recent deadly crash. No one sustained injuries in the November incident, according to Fullerton police. So a bit of a lighter end there for that, but still, a little eerie there, right? But yeah, let's go ahead and close out with another, air story in the airplane related. But this is definitely more business, so gotta put the business, but before the business, let's do a little pleasure. Let's take our last break. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, sorry. From the street. Another struggling airline files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, I gotta say, not a shout out to the street, but thank you for obviously posting this. Love a good solid source. But I hate how this article is like structured. It's definitely one where it would have been nice, I guess, if I had like the screen so I could show y'all, but I don't like doing that. It's not my style. But yeah, it just feels like they organize it in a way where they're trying to drag you through the whole article so you read the whole fucking article. But I find that to be annoying. Just give me the information the way you're supposed to. You're supposed to give me the most important parts at the very beginning. You shouldn't be giving me a fucking like prelude about JetBlue and Spirit. Like, motherfucker, I can talk about that shit. You can do your own shit and know about these kind of things, right? Or you can trickle it in throughout. I don't know. This is a weird gripe, and you guys just kind of have to take my word for it or whatever. But I just hate how this is structured. Anyway, jumping to the middle of the article, the new year began with the announcement that another low-cost Florida airline, Silver Airways, was also filing for Chapter 11 protection in the U.S. bankruptcy court for the Southern District of Florida. The smaller regional carrier is based in the suburb of Hollywood, outside Fort Lauderdale. It flies to destinations such as Key West, Tampa, and Florida in the U.S. and Nassau, St. Kitts, San Juan, and Santo Domingo across the Caribbean. Now, I gotta be honest with y'all. I had no idea what Silver Airlines was. Maybe y'all know, my dear listeners. Maybe y'all are hip to this. But yeah, this was an education for me. And apparently, they went from up and coming, they were high risers, to now they're like, nah, they're fighting for their lives out here. The bankruptcy protection will allow Silver to continue operations per usual as it restructures up to $500 million in debts. In 2023, the airline had briefly stopped flying out of Fort Lauderdale as it faced eviction of over $1.4 million in unpaid debts for gate slots. So it seems like debt is really what started dragging the company down. Like, they were doing really well, but the money was just catching up to them, and they weren't making a profit in order to get ahead, to keep up and sustain that kind of shit, right? So, damn, that sucks, I guess. But, hey, man, that's the beast, baby. You gotta feed these shareholders. You gotta make all the money, no matter what the cost. That's pure capitalism, baby. I don't know, man. I'm broke. Let's see here. What else did I really want to pull? We talk about the reasons, quotes, blah blah blah. They go through some of the specs, a little bit of filler here, but essentially, if you're booked on Silver Airways in any kind of way, should you worry? No, you're fine. This seems like a bankruptcy where they're trying to restructure. They're not trying to leave people in any kind of way of high and dry. Just kind of reading a quote from them to close out. All tickets remain valid, and we will continue operating as usual. Silver Airways wrote in its December 30th letter to customers, "You can book flights with Silver through our website or any other channel. United and JetBlue customers, including loyal program members, will experience no disruptions to their bookings or services." So maybe that's why they wanted to start the article with that, because that happened and they were tied to that. But they don't mention that at the top of it. So I still have beef. I still have gripes. But anyway, whatever. It is what it is. We fly high. No lies. You know this. Bankrupt. Anyway, that's the episode. That's all I have. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. That's a free action that really helps out a lot. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. And thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.